Last up tonight, we've got news from RedCat. And Blunty, I'm so thankful to have you as a partner for many reasons, but one of them is that you listen to these earnings calls and sit through all the corporate BS, and then you sift the nuggets of gold and bring them to us on the news, and I don't have to do it. So
yes. Today, here's what I would say. Previous RedCat earnings calls and reports, including the last one we brought you, I feel like the speak was such that you could assume that the way they were talking was still valid, right? What we know about how SharkBite is, like we know the statements Fat Shark has made about SharkBite, where HD0 is in the market, right? All those kind of things. And so we have a good idea of where that stuff is at. And so when other people make statements about that, we know if it's true or not, right? We have inside information.
Our bullshit detector goes off. So when they say, we're working with Fat Shark and a new developing digital FPV system to do drone inspections, you're like, yeah, that all checks out.
Right. So I thought the wording here was interesting because I feel like it is the first time that I feel like they're just lying. Like that's what I feel like is happening. So
for the record,
I'd like to point that out.
that's a personal statement of opinion by Blunty.
Yes.
And
not I'd love to hear the defense, but yes, I agree.
Okay.
It's a personal statement.
Okay.
So
what did they say that you interpret as dishonest?
Okay, so here's the first quote, which isn't as bad as the second one. The first one is, Fat Shark is continuing to develop its digital system called SharkBite. SharkBite is a high-quality, low-latency, high-def FPV, which means first-person view. We are now seeing approximately 50% conversions from analog to digital. We expect that to add momentum to the 2022 calendar year revenue. We're also seeing crossover up to and using commercial and military use cases.
I'm making my De Niro face here.
Yeah. So
that's not my De Niro face anymore.
First of all, Fat Shark isn't developing anything, right? That's not true.
Well,
Fat Shark isn't developing the digital system.
There was a world. There was a world in which I could have bought that statement. The very first HD0 SharkBite VTX. My impression from conversations I had while it was in development was that Fat Shark and HD0 were working very, very closely on the design and manufacturing. And if Fat Shark had said, we are developing this, I would have said, yeah, I buy it. But ever since, as we reported in previous weeks, Fat Shark has stepped back from the VTX side and basically said, we're not doing that anymore. I think it's a lot more questionable. They make goggles with HD0 modules in them, but to say that it is Fat Shark's digital system called SharkBite, I guess it's SharkBite is Fat Shark's digital system. It only has goggles in it, and it doesn't have any VTXs that they manufacture.
I think, to me,
I don't know.
Like
it's a stretch.
Continuing to develop is hard to parse when they're not doing the development. However, and then they say also in there, we are now seeing approximately 50% conversions from analog to digital.
Yeah, that
now, I was trying to imagine how we got there, and my guess is all the VRXs they sold, all the SharkBite VRXs they sold, they totaled that count of VRXs. They compared that to the count of goggle SKUs they sold at Fat Shark this year, and it was 50% of that total. So even though people bought VRXs for all the other goggles they have or as their second system or whatever, they're saying that like, oh, we converted half the goggle owners this year to HD. Like that's kind of how I'm reading it. That's the only way I can imagine you get 50% conversion.
Yeah, that statement, I guarantee you the lawyers wouldn't let them make that statement without some kind of number behind it.
Right.
So that if called on it,
where does that come from?
Yeah. But that is clearly, we are seeing 50% conversion from analog to digital. I mean, do you think that currently 50% of FPV pilots are using some form of digital system, whether it's DJI or SharkBite? You don't think it's high? I think
I would guess it's like 20 to 30% is my guess. That would be that's what my gut. That's what my gut says.
Yeah, like I like we have the Lumineer JB Xylo budget build, right? And it's sold in both an analog and a DJI version. And I remember the last time we had a call about that, I was surprised at the number of DJI sales because it's specifically marketed to first-time pilots. You would think they would be super on a budget. And I don't remember what the number was, but I remember it was higher than I thought. I don't know if it was higher than 30%. I don't think it was at 50% though.
Yeah. So let's read the other quote.
Okay.
So they got into questions later, and after dodging this question, it was asked again. He was asked this question and another question, and he answered only the other question. And then the guy was like, "Okay, well, I asked, so the unidentified analyst says, okay, thank you. And the fat shark development of the digital FPV system or the digital system, is there a time frame for that?" Right? And he says, in the fat shark development of the digital system, is there a time frame? And Jeff Thompson says, yes, well, they have versions of it now. It's continuing to improve and continuing to get better features and continue to get updates. The system is amazing, very low latency, much lower latency Chinese competitor, which obviously is DJI is talking about.
Accurate.
So we're at this early now, and we're finally starting to see, as I mentioned in our remarks, we're starting to see people switch from analog platforms to digital platforms. So that's a great stage. So that's a great stage for the analog systems work. The Fat Shark goggles are very well made, so they last a long time. So people don't really have to replace them all the time. But now we're seeing about 50% of people coming on board are switching to digital. We're hoping we can see that conversion rate go up, and then the HD system will continue to get traction throughout the year. So they're really harping on this 50%. And, I guess I wouldn't expect him to correct it, but the fact that we're answering a question that says the Fat Shark development of the digital system, I feel like they're really pitching this to investors. Anyone who listens to this and doesn't know anything about it will just assume Fat Shark is developing an in-house digital system that's revolutionary.
And they're not. That's absolutely not true. In fact, Fat Shark, we know that they have. I should be careful, because I was going to say we know they've stepped back. We know that they are no longer providing after-sale support, after-sale repair of the VTXs. They're leaving that to HD0. They're saying HD0 is taking care of that. And they said, we want to focus on goggles, which is what we're good at. Could they be developing something non-related to FPV specifically for inspection?
Possibly, but I don't know.
It sure seems like they're talking about HD0.
They are definitely talking about HD0. They say Sharkbite in the first quote. Yeah. So they're talking about the HD0 based system, right? Unless Sharkbite became another system, but that wouldn't be.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like in corporate bullshit speak, has Sharkbite become an umbrella for the Fat Shark digital system? And all these Sharkbite products that were sold previously, I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
To me, I just think they're selling it as like, hey, this is Fat Shark system, even though it's HD0 system, because Fat Shark was involved in development for a while. Yeah. And there's enough there to call it somehow legally that lawyers think it can be called development.
I agree. I think it's fishy. It's fishy.
Yeah.
Given Fat Shark,
the fact that, like we said, the fact that they put out a statement that says we're not supporting VTXs and we're using, we only want to make goggles.
How is it your system? It can't be a digital FPV system if it only has goggles in it. It must include video transmitters, obviously. And therefore, if the only video transmitters are available direct from HD0 and Fat Shark is not manufacturing them, developing them, or selling them, or supporting them, then it's hard to understand how Fat Shark is developing a digital FPV system is a true statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing I'll say. As a big company, it does seem pretty crazy. This is what I've said before, and why we assume there was something else going on. Is like it seems pretty crazy for a company this big to put a lot of its eggs, other than Teal, essentially all of its eggs are in this remote inspection business, to put all those eggs in an HD0 chipset they don't own. But I don't know.
We don't know what might be going on in the background with the $60 million that RedCat raised. We can't. For example, hypothetically, did Fat Shark take $10 million and they're doing some kind of development that we're completely unaware of, and that's why they backed off of HD0? They were like, this Carl Zhao guy, man, he's a loose cannon. Let's just take this money and invest it somewhere else. We don't know that that's not happening.
Yes, the books show that they still got that floating revenue, or that floating money. This earnings report still shows that 60 million floating. And somebody asked in the report, they said, hey, what are you going to do with with all this money? You've got all this floating money. And one of the things they said is, our goal is to take gigantic orders for Teal. And then we'll just be able to satisfy those gigantic orders because we have literally $60 billion to buy all the shit and immediately produce them. Yeah. So part of part of their deal was that. I don't know what they're going to do with that money, but I don't know. It's just interesting to me, like what we know about the systems and what we know about what they've presented to, their users and what they've done at a consumer level for customer support does not echo what this statement says about their development of SharkBite. That's what I would say.
Yeah. Ken Hartman wants to know, is that why Rotor-Riot was blowing out SharkBite VRXs when everybody else had them for $200, $250? No, I'll speak to that based on what I feel like I know. First of all, Rotor-Riot and Fat Shark are different companies. They're both owned by RedCat, and obviously there is some synergy there. But at the end of the day, I don't think there's, Rotor-Riot still sells DJI gear. Well, if they were like being controlled by RedCat and the SharkBite family or the RedCat family, they wouldn't sell DJI. They'd only sell SharkBite because that's in the family. So, but what happened was that HD0 announced basically a markdown to try and promote the product, and that's why everybody was selling them for $99. Everybody else sold out their original stock and then raised the price back up again. Rotor-Riot continued to honor the price on pre-sales or on back orders. Now, I don't know why they made the decision to do that, but Rotor-Riot wasn't blowing out stock because Rotor-Riot sold out, at least according to the website. They sold out and continued to take back orders at the $99 price. I don't know why that was. I can't speak to that, but it wasn't that like Rotor-Riot was blowing out SharkBite VRXs because Fat Shark was disowning SharkBite. In fact, I would assume that Rotor-Riot still sells HD0 VTXs.
Yeah, it's still SharkBite.
It's still SharkBite. Yeah. Well, that won't last. Yeah, so they still, I don't know, they still have VTXs in stock, out of stock. Okay, I'm not really making my point. Out of stock, okay. Out of stock, okay. Well, maybe, I assume that they still intend to sell SharkBite products, and that $99 promotion was just a promotion. So anyway, but I do see that it's out of stock lots of places.
I can almost guarantee you that as long as Fat Shark is making that product, then it will be sold there.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I expect Fat Shark to continue making the VRX.
Well, we know that HD0 has announced that they're coming out with their own VRX.
Yeah. And I feel like that one's going to replace it, and then SharkBite or Fat Shark will just continue to make their goggles because that's what they said. They want to make headsets.
Well, alrighty. I don't think there's any shenanigans going on with Rotor-Riot. I'm not trying to rule out the possibility that, like, obviously Drew sits in a meeting with Jeff and Chad. I think that makes sense, and Greg, and they all talk about the future of the company. But at the end of the day, Rotor-Riot they got to sell product, and they're going to sell the products that make money at the end of the day. So, they still have it listed for $99. Is that true?
They just
they do.
Them.
They do.
I'm almost positive. Yeah, I'm almost positive they Yeah, you should that just a second ago on stream.
I just wasn't paying attention.
I think you almost. I think they just restocked them too. They sent out an email. Maybe it was an accident yesterday or the day before. But I know they were sold out within the hour. So I don't know if they actually had stock or that was an accident.
You used to be able to put in a pre-order or a back order at $99. Yes. And I know that's true because I asked Drew. I said, Drew, are you honoring that price on the back orders? And he said, if it's on the store for $99, then we're selling it for $99. Now it's out of stock, though, which does that suggest that since it's not back order, they're not restocking it? I don't know. That's all speculation.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Do not know.